Let's say 3, 2, 1, start. Hello everyone, we are group 2 of this course and our presentation topic is Faxian's journey to the West. While academic research on Faxian's journey is extensive, it often focuses on matching ancient and modern place names or the naming and translation of Buddhist scriptures. However, less attention has been paid to how Faxian's journey served as a bridge between different eras and traditions. Our presentation divided into 3 parts. The first part explores the background of Buddhism's introduction to China. This is crucial because focusing solely on Faxian's personal charisma risks overlooking the inevitable challenges faced by the development of Buddhism. The second part examines the specific route of his journey, highlighting his indomitable spirit while also understanding the inclusive nature of Chinese Buddhism. The third part discusses Faxian's contributions from the perspectives of social geography and Buddhist development. Now, let's invite the first speaker to present on the background of Buddhism's introduction to China. Now you can share your screen.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, John. In the following, I'm going to introduce the background, the flourishing of Buddhism in China. To start with, let's take a look at the Buddhism during Han, Wei, Southern, and Northern dynasties. Since Buddhism entered China in Han Dynasty, it propagated Buddhist doctrines and fasting rituals, gradually permeating into the deeply into the folk society. By the late Han and early Wei periods, the Buddhist temples had been established in places like Luoyang, which alone hosted 42 temples, exemplifying that Buddhism's popularity among the populace. The chaos in the late Han, culminating in the upheaval of the 5 barbarian tribes and social collapse, drove people to seek justice through the karma, pray for agricultural prosperity, and pursue fortune. So, what made the Buddhism flourish in China? There are 3 drivers, namely social turmoil, intellectual thrift, and ethnic fusion. First, chaos drove people to seek spiritual stability. During the Western Jin period, the rebel Hou Ziguang claimed to be the Buddha's son, sent from the Roman Empire to rule over China, gathering thousands of followers and declaring himself the Great Yellow Emperor. Besides, the monk Fo Cheng used the concept of karma to curb the greedy warlord Shi Le's massacres and saved 80 to 90% of the civilians, illustrating the Buddhist adaptation during the 5 barbarian trials. The second driver is the Taoist Buddhist synergy among the elites. In the Western Jin dynasty, the scholars merged the notions of Lao Tzu and Zhuangzi with Buddhist emptiness, gaining immense popularity. And ideas advocating the detachment from the worldly suffering and retreating from society drew many into the Buddhist monastic community Sangha. Additionally, Jin literati and aristocrats sponsored Buddhist monks for their mastery for metaphysical principles, even providing them with spaces for practice. This intellectual escapism among the Jin elites further facilitated the Buddhism's dissemination. Finally, post-Han and Wei periods witnessed the multi-ethnic coexistence in the Northwest. The discourse on relocating barbarians warned that the Eastern Han's policy allowing Di and Chan peoples to settle in Guangdong would lead to chaos. Yet, the Jin emperors ignored the warning and culminating in the catastrophic upheaval of the 5 barbarian tribes and the Western Jin's collapse under foreign rule. As official Wang Du argued, the Buddha originated in the western regions, a foreign deity whose merits do not benefit our people. Since Buddhism itself was an imported faith, ethnic integration during this era also contributed to its spread. Next, Dominic would talk about the biography of Faxian.
Thanks, Karis. Here I'm going to share my screen. You see my share screen? Can you see my share screen?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Okay. Here I'm going to talk about the contribution of Faxian. There are 3 contributions. The first contribution of Faxian is to traverse land and sea, visit kingdoms, study Buddhism, and bring back Buddhism text. There were many monks done something similar too, but why Faxian is the most renowned among these monks? This is not only because his journey extended to further than others, such as Zhang Qian and Zhu Shixing, but also he can come back safely, while earlier monks such as Hui Chang and Hui Bian were hard to return. His second contribution lies to Indian history. His travelogue, a record of Buddhist kingdoms, documenting the cultures and customs of Western lands. But why is this document so important? Firstly, India's historical record is fragmented even in the modern day. For example, ancient kingdoms like Khotan and Karina have vanished, leaving no written traces. Secondly, the document is fully preserved and the most detailed about the Buddhist history of India. That is how this document shows its importance. His third contribution is to Chinese Buddhism. He translated millions of characters of Buddhist scriptures with the monk Buddha Abhaja, which promoted the spread of Buddhism in China. But why are these translation works so important? Because these works provide a solid foundation for Buddhist study. For instance, the Mahasanghika Vinaya became one of the 5 Vinaya, and Vaipulya Sutras and Mahaparinirvana founded doctrinal studies in China. The next part is biography of Faxian, Shi Faxian from 337 to 422 century, originally named Gong and born in Wuyang, Pingyang. He had a monastic life at age 3 and contributed to Buddhist teaching from youth. In addition, he was fully ordained at age 20 according to Tripitaka. After he resided in Chang'an to seek out the missing text of Vinaya, finally he went to West to get scriptures at age 65. That is all. In the following, my teammates will discuss the part 2.
Now let's move to part 2 of the presentation. We're going to talk about the journey of Faxian. Can you guys see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Great. Now let's talk about the detailed journey of Faxian. Faxian's journey includes from China to India to Sri Lanka and then to Sumatra and finally back to China. And his companions include Hui Jing, Dao Zheng, Hui Ying, and Hui Wei. Departing from Chang'an, they traveled from Shanxi to Zhangyi, where they met Zhi Yan, Seng Shao, Bao Yun, and Seng Jing, proceeding westward to Dunhuang. And in Dunhuang, Governor Li Hao supplied them for the desert crossing, after which they part ways with Zhi Yan and Bao Yun. Then they reached Wuyi via the mountain and stayed 2 months, and they head southwest after receiving provisions from Fu Gongsun. Despite desolate sandy terrain, they reached Khotan. Hui Jing, Dao Zheng, and Hui Da first depart for Jiecha, and then Seng Shao then traveled alone to Jibin with a foreign monk. Finally, Faxian and 2 companions journeyed to Zihe and turned south towards the Pamirs. Faxian arrived at Jiacha via Yuhui and reunited with Huijing. Beyond the pioneers lay Tianzhu, which is modern-day India. In northern Tianzhu, they reached the small kingdom of Zuoli. But before arriving at Najie, Kuei-da, Baoyun, and Seng Jing returned to China, and while Huijing died of illness crossing the Xiaoxueshan, and only Faxian and Daozheng reached central India. Faxian traveled extensively through central India, visiting Buddhist temples and relics, staying longest at Balianfoyi. Since Buddhist scriptures in North India were transmitted orally with no written Vinaya, he pressed further to central India.
For his experience in India, by 404 CE, Faxian reached northern India, starting his journey in Tassila, a hub of Buddhist culture. He visits stupas and monasteries, noting monks' daily ritual visitations and emscalving ceremonies, which later inspired Chinese practices. Despite facing bloodshed and dangers crossing the Himalayas, his determination shone through. This early observation laid the groundwork for his mission to bring authentic Buddhist teachings back to China. And next, Faxian visited key Buddhist sites like Bodh where he copied the Daban Liepen Jing and recorded Buddha tree worship. In Kushinaga, he conducted Vinaya tests and observed Parinirvana rituals at Cernif. He documented monks' preaching and debates, which sparked ideas for Chinese Buddhist educations. These visits enrich his understanding and provide scriptures critical to China Buddhist development. And the next part, Faxian called vital texts like the Dazhongbu Lüchang and Daban Liepen Jing, shaping Chinese monastic life. He recorded Pataliputra communal monastic practices and vibrant stupa festivals, influencing Chinese temple management and Aulampala festival. His notes on Indian monks' vegetarianism also inspired Chinese Buddhist dietary norms, fostering cultural exchange that fascinated for centuries. In Pataliputras, Faxian debated Buddha nature with monks, enriching his Mahayana knowledge. He learned Sanskrit to read scriptures accurately. Inspired by their cultural blending, he crafted translation using Chinese terms like Foxing, making Buddhist teaching accessible to China.
Then let's continue to talk about the journey of Faxian. Faxian's companion Daozheng decided to stay in central India as they all by the Buddhism's grandeur. And then Faxian was trying to retrieve more Vinaya, so he traveled to the sea, boarded on a merchant ship to Simhalapia, which is modern-day Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, Faxian spent 2 years there acquiring the Mahasaya Vinaya, Durha Agama, and Samyukta Agama, a miscellaneous collection, which were texts unknown in China back then. After that, he embarked eastward on another merchant vessel, and during a perilous 100-day voyage to Gibati, which is modern-day Sumatra, and then eventually returning to China via Qingzhou in Shandong.
So imagine the challenges that rare travelers hallucinate from high altitude passes with oxygen-thin air and foreign cultures where even basic communication was a struggle. Faxian persevered, driven by a singular mission to bring back what China lacked: authentic Vinaya texts. Next, before Faxian, Chinese Buddhism faced a crisis. Monks had only fragments, forcing monks to improvise rules. So look in the picture. We can see that robes varied by region, meal times were inconsistent, and ordination ceremonies lacked standardization. Without Indian Vinaya codes, Chinese Buddhism risked drifting away from the root problem. This wasn't just about ritual details. It was about preserving the very structure of monastic life. Faxian recognized that for Buddhism to thrive in China, it needs authoritative texts, not local adaptations. Next, Faxian's true legacy was transforming Buddhism from a foreign religion into an integral part of Chinese culture. His journey inspired generations of monks like Xuanzang to follow in his footsteps, while his translations became the foundation for the Tang Dynasty's Vinaya school. Most importantly, the text he brought back allowed Buddhism to adapt to Chinese society, blending with local traditions while maintaining its core teachings, ultimately making it as Chinese as tea or Sufa calligraphy. Without Faxian, Chinese Buddhism as we know it simply wouldn't exist. Next, Faxian's Vinaya text transformed Chinese Buddhism by creating much needed structure, introducing proper ordination ceremonies, regular confession, and organized retreats. But the real genius was how they adapt these Indian rules to Chinese culture. Those monks began operating like Chinese families with abbots as respected patriarchs, while Buddhist rituals incorporated ancestor worship. Even farming practices were modified to fit local values.
Faxian's translation of Vinaya texts were pivotal in stabilizing Buddhist institutions during the Northern and Southern Dynasty, bridging structured governance to centers like Luoyang. His work laid a crucial foundation for the Tang Dynasty Nanshan Vinaya School, which built directly on his translation. Moreover, the Da Ban Lie Pen Jing, which Faxian brought to China, profoundly influenced the Tian Tai Zong Da Chen Jiao Yi, shaping its teaching and practices. Through this contribution, Faxian helped integrate Buddhism into the institutional and intellectual fabric of Chinese dynasty, leaving a lasting legacy. Next, Faxian's effort localized Buddhism to China, with his translation of Buddha nature concepts influencing the development of Chan Buddhism. His journeys inspired later pilgrims like Xuanzang and Yi Jing, who followed in his footsteps to sink scripture in Bulgaria. Moreover, his Foguo Zhi remains an invaluable historical source, offering detailed insight to Pataliputra's Buddhist practices for scholars. By bridging India and Chinese tradition, Faxian transformed Buddhism from a foreign faith into a core component of Chinese culture, shaping its enduring legacy. And to the part 3.
Can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Next, we'll be talking about the contribution to Buddhism from Faxian. First, I will be starting presenting with the Mahasamgika Vinaya. The Mahasamgika Vinaya is a key text in Buddhist monastic rules, emphasizing ethical conduct and community living among monks, providing key insight into the school textual canon. As we mentioned it, Faxian played a monumental role in preserving, translating, and spreading this Vinaya in the 4th and 5th century CE. His tireless journey to India were driven by an unwavering dedication to collect and bring back authentic Buddhist sculpture, including this Vinaya to China. Throughout all the difficulties, Faxian not only ensured the survival of this text, but also facilitated its translation into Chinese, allowing it to influence Buddhist practice far beyond India.
I'll now talk about the canonical structure analysis. So according to Bart Dyson, the Mahasamgika Vinaya provides some insights into the format of the school's textual canon. They appear to have had a Vinaya in 5 parts, an Abhidharma Pitaka and the Sutra Pitaka. The Vinaya Pitaka manuscript shows palm leaf folios inscribed in an early Buddhist script, which illustrates the physical format used to record the 5-part Vinaya and related canonical texts. Next. Dyson also mentions that the school probably had a Bodhisattva Pitaka, which included material that in all likelihood consisted of texts that formed part of the early development of the Bodhisattva path as an alternative carrier to that of an arhat, perhaps serving as a foundation for the later developments of the Bodhisattva doctrine. Now I'll talk about the Mahaparinirvana Sutra script. The Nirvana Sutra is a significant Buddhist scripture translated by Fashion. It emphasizes the Buddha nature inherent in all beings and has profoundly influenced Buddhism, shaping key doctrines and ethical teachings. So I'll now talk about the scriptural influence and the doctrinal significance of the Nirvana Sutra. The Nirvana Sutra is an extremely influential work for East Asian Buddhism. Dharmaxima's Nirvana Sutra inspired numerous sutra commentaries and is cited widely by numerous East Asian Buddhist authors. The sutra was a key scriptural source for the idea that all sentient beings have Buddha nature, which was seen as an active force in the world. Yeah, it was also influential due to its teachings promoting vegetarianism and its teachings on the eternal nature of the Buddha. All these doctrines became central teachings of Chinese Buddhism. The Nirvana Sutra was also seen as a key sutra for both the Tian Chai and the Yuan schools, the main doctrinal schools of Chinese Buddhism. The key Tian Chai even saw the sutra as a final teaching of the Buddha and as being of equal status to the Lotus Sutra.
To conclude, Baxian's contribution were pivotal to the cross-cultural exchange of Buddhist thought and practice, shaping the development of East Asia Buddhism. By preserving the Maghasamgika Vinaya, he established the ethical codes and norms for monastic life. Additionally, Baxian's collection of Mahayana texts bridged the oral tradition and written scriptures, anchoring the Bodhisattva path and promoting the Mahaparinirvana Sutra teaching. His translation of the sutra introduced the universal Buddha nature doctrine, influencing Tiantai and Huayan schools on enlightenment and the eternal Buddha. These efforts ensure doctrine continuity between India and East Asia, preserving Buddha's ethical, philosophical, and spiritual foundation for future generations. And this is the end of part 3.
Thank you for your hard working. This is the end of the presentation. Hopefully everything will be alright afterwards and in the grading part. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.